Hello everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Skarest on Gaming, where we will take a look at various news and articles around the gaming world that have caught my interest. Just want to let you guys know as far as what's going on in the background game. I actually did a little bit of leveling up off camera. It's just a little bit low. I think I ended up putting 3 levels onto Mario and onto Malo, and either 2 or 3 levels onto Gino, I don't remember. So I believe they're at level 10, 10, and 9 now. So let's go ahead and jump into the gaming news then. First we'll be taking a look at a little bit of an older story. It's a couple weeks old, but a judge dismissed much of the PlayStation hacking suit, in which there was a lawsuit going up against Sony dealing with a security breach that I'm sure anybody who pays attention to any gaming news remembers, in which 69 million personal information and credit card accounts were stolen. Those were all supposed to be encrypted and so forth, so how much information was actually gotten out is an entirely different subject. But there was a lawsuit against them basically stating that they should have had better protection. They knew this weaknesses inside of their system, did nothing about it, all that kind of fun stuff. Now, I don't know the truth about any of that. It seems to me that Sony wouldn't be as stupid enough to purposefully leave something in there they know they're going to have this much stuff come out of, because it definitely has not been good for Sony in any way when all that happened. I remember when it happened to me, what really drove me up a wall is the fact that I bought Portal 2 and I picked it up at a Kmart because Kmart had it on sale for like $35 like 2 days after it was released, or something ridiculous like that. And I bought it on a PlayStation because I figured, hey, I'll have it on the PlayStation. I'll just go trade it into GameStop or my local game store, something of that nature. And since I'll be able to actually sign this up with my Steam account, I can at that point in time have it on the PC like I wanted anyway. End up being cheaper, all that kind of fun stuff. And Portal is a game that I just could not play with a controller to save my life, so I had to have it on the PC. Unfortunately, the day I finally go to sign it up is the day that the Sony network goes down. And since the Sony network was down, I was never able to link those two accounts, so I ended up having to go over a month before I was actually able to play the bloody game. So it aggravated the crap out of me, needless to say. So the judge dismissed most of the claims against them. Hasn't been all of them. I'm not sure which ones they have kept on there. If you're not familiar and don't remember exactly what happened with the story, it was basically they got hacked on either the 16th or the 17th of April back in 2011. And then it wasn't until April 26th that they actually came out and said that they had been hacked, there has been theft, and financial information may have been taken. Sony then, after that, went through a good chunk of steps, redid a lot of their system that they ended up having to redo. They also went ahead and offered things, various free games to the people who are members of PlayStation. They also gave I think a free month to PlayStation Plus, and if there's any credit card fraud information on your account, they were paying for the services in order to help have that fixed. It's all good and fine for them. My big problem with when this whole entire thing happened was the fact that it took 10 days for Sony to come out here. I don't know if they were at fault for what happened with the system-wise. I couldn't tell you. And I don't know if there's any legal issue with the fact that they waited 10 days. But if there's anything, in my opinion, which I think is the bigger problem here in this particular case for me, is the fact that when they had this information taken, they were aware of it and took a week and a half to tell people. That's a week and a half of you not maybe closely monitoring your cards and things of that nature, in which your information could have been being stolen. To me, that is beyond horrendous at that point in time. That was the worst thing Sony did in there. But they have dropped most of the stuff on there. I don't have too much of an opinion on it due to the fact that I haven't done enough research into it to be able to say that Sony was at fault for what was taken. Now, the judge has said that they're not at fault for what was taken. The reasoning that the judge was giving on there had to do with the fact that when you signed up for the PlayStation system and when you agree to go online, you do agree to a terms of service contract, in which a terms of service contract does stipulate that their system isn't perfect and you're going to run into problems. The other issue that they were running into was due to the fact that there was it didn't violate consumer protection laws, according to the judge, due to the fact that none of the names, and this is a quote, because none of the named plaintiffs subscribed to premium PSN services and thus received the PSN services free of cost. So since none of the named plaintiffs in the lawsuit happen to be members of the PlayStation Plus service, they weren't at that point in time actually breaking any consumer protection laws because you were not actually spending any money with them at that point in time in accordance to them. I think there could be a little bit of an issue running in there for anyone who's ever bought any games off the PSN network, because I know I've bought a few off there. But I'm not a lawyer by any means. I've never studied law, so my opinion means a whole lot of squat, basically, in this actual situation. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on here to a story that I found on GameSpot UK, actually. And it has to do with the Halo 4 devs have come out against sexism. Now, what they're looking at is they look at, obviously, the Xbox 360 and Xbox Live system, since Halo 4 is exclusive to Xbox 360, and looking at the behavior of the various people that are on there, and anybody who's ever used any of the voice chats on any game, from your higher-end Modern Warfare Halo-type games to playing Uno, knows that a lot of the times you'll run into the worst people that almost mankind can give, short of your standard, your obvious, your murderers and that kind of fun people. But as far as your online people, these are the worst of online people there are out there. So they came out with a big stance against it, saying things like, this behavior is offensive and completely unacceptable. I'd like to think most of our Xbox Live players don't support this kind of behavior. I'd like to think that as well. Obviously, every time I get on, I tend to run into those people, but it's that whole entire thing of the vocal minority. If you go onto most gaming websites for any popular game, go on to World of Warcraft as a great example, you'll see people complaining and yelling and screaming up and down and left and right and backwards and forwards, and you find out that, a whole whopping 2% of the actual gaming population thinks this, the rest of them just going, you guys are dumb, and we don't feel like having to respond to you on that. Now, one of the things I thought was the most interesting is one of the folks from here, which was Kiki Wolfkill, who was the producer of or the executive producer for Halo 4, where she sat there and said that it can be dangerous to give adolescents a broadcast mechanism. Why I find that interesting is actually most of the time that I've run into people of just pure stupidity, it's not adolescents, at least not in my realm. Now, I know there's a lot on there. I've run into them. Unfortunately, my nephew occasionally likes to be one of those people who likes to run his mouth a bit on there. He's not bad in the sense of saying sexist, profane, laced things. He just likes to antagonize people, which I do that occasionally myself. Sometimes it's just a fun little thing to do, to antagonize people a bit. But most of the time when it comes to the purely sexist or racist comments that I run into people, it comes from slightly older folks. It comes from people in their early 20s. And I've discovered, with people I'm doing that, as an example, one of my old raid teams that I used to play for, where the raid leader, who I want to say was 20, maybe 21, and just as a reference, I'm 28. The raid leader would get really upset anytime somebody said anything remotely what he deemed to be sexist or racist. Yet he had this tendency to constantly sit there, and if you did something that was just dumb or silly, he'd sit there and call you out and say, stop being a Jew. Couldn't make him understand that, hey, that's actually racist. I know South Park might tell you otherwise, but that's actually racist to sit there and reference somebody of that nature, and somebody in that nature. It's the same. It's literally the exact same. And me going around saying, "Hey, that's so being white. No, that's racist." Or that's so being black. No, that's racist. So, to me at least, it seems to mainly be the older folks, not necessarily adolescents. Now, what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to actually have the ability to just flat out ban people. Now, I think the big problem I have with this is twofold. One, what is determined, basically they have to lay out the rules, or Microsoft have to lay out the rules of what is considered sexist and what is not. I know that most people say, hey, that's an easy line to follow. If I sit there and yell at you, hey woman, get back in the kitchen, yeah, that's being sexist. But not everything in the world is that black and white, and sometimes you have to make sure you're able to properly interpret what that actually means. And then the other thing I have a big problem with this is the fact that we are so obsessed with we're going out against sexism. I find exceptionally more racism on Xbox Live than I ever find sexism. So I kind of question that just a little bit with our focus on, hey, we're fighting against purely sexism here. How about we just fight against all sheer stupidity? I think that's a better option. Let's focus on just stopping all the slanderous and horrible things that are people saying on Xbox all the time. Now, personally, how I look at it, I don't care about banning people. I think that's a bit aggravating and things of that nature. What I think needs to simply enough be done is we as a people, we as a community have to take control of our own community. We've created the community in this way. So if we're going to create the community in this way, we have to be the ones to be able to control it. I have simple rules as an example. When I sit there in World of Warcraft, I've been in charge of several guilds. My rules follow very simple, is that you represent me and my guild wherever you happen to be. So if you were in trade chat and you're running your mouth and all this kind of stuff, you're representing me. I will kick you out of my guild if you're sitting there and you're in any way defaming my name. Gaming communities really have to take that stance first off. So if you happen to be a clan or a guild in a clan in Modern Warfare 3 or anything of that nature, and you have people out there with your gamer tag on their name, you have to hold them responsible to that higher level and make them understand, hey, doing this, even not in our games, you represent us. That is unacceptable. You're not doing it. You're going to have to quit this stuff, and you're going to have to quit it now. We as a community have to take charge of our own. Also, one of your big things you have to take use of is, honestly, just the mute feature when people are being stupid. Just mute them. And then Microsoft needs to make sure that their reporting function is working properly, so when people actually get the email or get the in-game mail, as I see those things all the time, that Microsoft is appropriately responding, because some of those in-game mails are just absolutely horrific, and it's at that point in time there's no way you can argue saying I never said that or anything of that nature. No, it's typed in there. You said it, you're banned. But I think for the most part, we have to take this into our own hands as a community. We as a community are in complete control of what happens. We can't sit there and let other people dictate to us how our communities are going to operate, especially the vocal minority, the pure stupid at this point in time. Because if you feel the need to run around doing nothing but making racist and sexist comments, you're stupid. Deal with it. Learn to not be stupid about it. Learn to grow up a little bit. Learn to just play the game and have a good time how normal people are supposed to play the game. But once again, folks, take it into your own hands. We, the community, have control over this. So we, the community, need to keep control over this. You do that, everything will end up working out much, much better. Well, I do thank you folks for watching today. I should go ahead and like and favorite the video. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything of that nature, post them in the comment section below. Otherwise, folks, keep on gaming.